Bobbi Brown is a renowned makeup artist, author, speaker, entrepreneur, best known for founding Bobbi Brown Cosmetics, which became a billion-dollar brand under her leadership as Chief Creative Officer for over 20 years. After the brand's acquisition by Estee Lauder in 1995, she left in 2016 to pursue new ventures, launching Beauty Evolution LLC and opening The George, a boutique hotel in New Jersey. In 2020, she returned to the beauty industry with Jones Road, a clean beauty brand recognized as one of the fastest growing brands shortly after its launch. She has received numerous honors, including Fortune's Most Powerful Women and Forbes 50 over 50. She also holds honorary doctorates and served on a trade policy advisory committee appointed by President Obama.
Well, I'm really excited just to kind of talk about, what gave you the guts to start your own cosmetic line, Bobbi Brown, way back in the day, and, kind of get to know that journey, and then how you switched over to more of like a natural beauty line. I have your eyebrow gel on right now, your eyebrow pencil. I have your mascara on. I have a magic balm on my lips right now. I've never taken a beauty brand. Like I remember Bobbi Brown when I was in high school, when my mom took me to the beauty counter to do my first makeup, tutorial or whatever. But I've never really taken to a brand as quickly when it comes to makeup. So I'm really excited about Jones Road and kind of like what you're building now.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. It's certainly my passion and just everything, but I'll take you way back. So my history is I was a makeup artist. I studied theatrical makeup in college and moved to New York and started doing shoots and fashion on the side. And I just met a chemist, and I told him that I've been really frustrated with lipsticks and I've always wanted to make my own. And he said, I could make it for you. So I kind of put together everything I liked, everything I didn't like. And, he made me one. It was just for me. It wasn't for anyone else. And then I said, wow, this is so great. I bet everyone's going to love this. And then I thought, well, not everyone loves what I love. And I thought about different colors. And basically he said, why don't I make them and give them to you? You could sell them and we'll sell them for $15 and we'll each get $7.50. And that's how we started. Just like that.
Well, it's interesting because most entrepreneurs, they like dream up these big businesses and then they're intimidated to start versus starting small and trying something on and just kind of like throwing stuff against the wall to see if it sticks. So can you talk to me about how the business built over time? It sounds like the chemists sort of like helped you self-fund in the beginning. Were you guys partners at Bobbi Brown? Did you stay friends and business partners? How did that relationship evolve?
Well, first of all, we never signed anything. There was never any paperwork, and we never called each other partners. I never called this a brand. It was just this, I never even called it a side hustle, and that's what it was. And it was about the same time I had my first baby. So it was, there was a lot going on. And I did this out of my house. I'd bring the lipsticks to shoots and people would love them. They'd want to buy them. And I'd, kind of started doing it that way. And then one day, a friend of mine who was the beauty editor at Glamour magazine said, what's going on, Bobbi? And we started talking about our kids. And I told her what I was doing. And she goes, oh my God, I'd love to write a story about it. I'm like, why would you write a story about this? And now I know it's called PR.
Yeah.
But that's when things got, there was no name. It wasn't called Bobbi Brown. It was just, these lipsticks that I would mail out in little manila envelopes. And when she wrote about it, we got bombarded with orders and, it started to have legs. And honestly, my only idea was I might have some extra cash, to go to Whole Foods and buy, the groceries. That was my only thing. And, continued on probably for about a year and a half. And then I was at someone's house. I asked her what she did. And she was a cosmetics buyer for Bergdorf Goodman. And I pitched her this lipstick and somehow she took it. But that didn't work with this chemist. This chemist was this guy that lived in rural Pennsylvania. And, we couldn't have a business model, $7.50 and $7.50. Yeah. So I had to start all over and find a lab to recreate these lipsticks and, do things a little more business-like.
Yeah. How long was it just a lipstick line before pitching to Bergdorf, the buyer at Bergdorf?
Well, it was still a lipstick line at Bergdorf. We launched 10 lipsticks on a table in the floor because there was no room to give us anything more than that. And it was such a success. They basically said, okay, we're going to find a space for you, but we'll launch the lipsticks, but come on, like get going, get some other products. So
Yeah.
after the lipsticks, we added pencils, and they didn't have room for us on the floor. So they said, we can give you a counter in the handbag department next door. So it turned out to be incredible because the handbag department wasn't that busy. Our counter was. People were lined up constantly to see this new thing. What are these lipsticks that look like lips, that aren't greasy, that don't smell, that are simply packaged, all that kind of stuff. So it became a company until we sold it after 4.5 years to Estee Lauder. And then it really blew up.
So when you sold it to Estee Lauder, it was still just a lipstick and liner company?
Well, it was more than that. We had gotten into Neiman Marcus, and we were the number one brand in both Bergdorf and Neiman's. And that's when Estee Lauder called. And we didn't have a full line, but we had, many, many things, eyeshadows and pencils. And we weren't strategically what's next. We were like, how fast can we get things done?
Yeah.
And so we just kept pumping out these products. And we had a business partner at the time, another couple. So the four of us kind of worked together. And it was not an easy relationship. It was tough. And so when we sold the company, it was mostly that I just needed to figure out a way to get out of this tough business relationship. And then Estee Lauder handled it.
So looking back on the business and starting it, what do you think really set you apart from like your competition, and what gave you an edge being a makeup artist?
Well, what set me apart was it felt different. The makeup felt different. It didn't feel like the makeup you would buy from the fancy makeup brands at Bergdorf or even Macy's. It was a makeup artist created product. And for me, it was smoother. It was matter. It wasn't stinky and, flower smelling. And it was marketed from the lens of not just a makeup artist, but also a busy working mom. So the combination, it was a new way, without realizing it, to talk to the customer. Was, okay, I'm as busy as you are. And, I do my makeup in the back of a car. I do makeup in the front of a car sometimes. How do we do this? I haven't slept all night. How do I make myself not look tired? So without realizing it, I was being authentic, but I was also being disruptive because people didn't do that, right? Back then, when you were like a young kid, it was like, oh no, you have to be fabulous and fancy. Well, I wasn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't. And that's okay.
Yeah, it is okay. And it definitely was filling a need, I think, for the consumer, and for me specifically, looking at your brand when I was, and we, we're just chatting about that, but my mom took me to the Clinique beauty counter to start, to learn how to put on my makeup and to pick something that was young and youthful. And the minute it was my turn to kind of decide what brand I gravitated towards, it was yours. And my whole family's blondes. My mom and my sisters, artificially, at some point they turned artificially blonde, but I have my dad's coloring, more olive, brown hair, brown eyes. And I was so drawn to your colors. Like, it just felt like I didn't look like I was a dancer, or like bright color. Like, it really just was tonal to my skin. And I have smaller lips. And so, a big bright red for me. And it's like, I felt like a clown. Whereas I could get like a muddy pink or something that really just accentuated who I was without it being, look like I put on my mom's makeup. I always felt so funny in the bright stuff. And so, I feel like your line was so iconic, and it continued to be after it was purchased from Estee Lauder. But so kudos to you, and just like owning your authenticity and putting something out that I think as a makeup artist, or even someone in practice of what they're producing. They know what their audience or their community or their customer or their patient or their client needs. And so it's a totally different, coming from a totally different space. Like you see the need, you see the hole, and you have the confidence to fill it. And that's so cool because it's been such a success for you. So you mentioned your partners and maybe making not the best decision for your business. For entrepreneurs who are out there and maybe have a partner that isn't maybe it's not a productive relationship for growth, or maybe they feel like they've made a mistake in producing a product or going a specific way. What advice do you have for them when it comes to starting over or getting out?
Well, the hardest part is honesty, right? I mean, that's something that, I didn't know back then. So, I would hold things in and I'd be frustrated and upset and didn't fight back because I was young and wasn't that experienced. I'd come home and just freak out to my husband, and he would just kind of tell me to calm down, don't worry about it. We're going to figure this out. And I was not in a good place. But I have learned now what works because my second, business, I've worked with people, I've hired people that have not been, personality or skill, the right people. And it's a hard conversation to have, but like honesty, this isn't working. This isn't what I thought. I've had to tell people, I don't think you're in the right job. I don't think this is the right role for you. You're so good at this, and so that's the hardest part to learn. But I didn't, I started Jones Road in my 60s. So if I would have in my, 30s been able to go to my partner and say, this isn't working for me. The way you're acting is not acceptable. And this is not what I want to do, but I just didn't do that. Yeah. So, but that's how you learn and get stronger.
Yeah. And do you think that like strength of being honest and being clear with people and having boundaries just came with experience and age? Or what do you think gets in the way of younger women
I
standing up for themselves?
Yeah, I definitely think it's age for sure, and experience and confidence. And I think that, I wasn't someone that, has business experience. I never went to business school. I was just a nice girl from the suburbs. I watched my Papa Sam with his car dealership. I watched my dad with his law firm, and just didn't know what you should and shouldn't do. And I think I was so concerned what the right thing to do was, but I didn't do the right things all the time, which would be standing up for myself and saying it's not working. So, I think the younger generation is better at it than I was, because it's all about, power women now. It's all about, you're worthy, and, I think a lot of the founders and well-known women my age have really used their platform to empower and inspire the younger generation, which is you and younger women.
Yeah, it is really, it's really inspiring to see entrepreneurs go before you and to share the good and also to share the difficult parts of their business, because I think, the more we're transparent and talk about funding and we talk about growth and we talk about problems and we talk about production and we talk about, contracts with buyers or big POs or things that can be intimidating and overwhelming. We're like, oh, well, this person did X, Y, and Z, and you're an example of it's possible and you can get through it. So when you first took on those partners in the beginning, what was the reason for the relationship? And why did you make the choice, and what advice would you have for someone in the future building their own brand with partners?
Well, I mean, I learned a lot, and they were the right people at the right time. They were friends. And the wife was in PR and the husband worked for a cosmetics company. So we figured that was, two skills that we didn't have. I looked at myself as the creator and the spokesperson, and my husband, with his law degree and just being an incredible businessman, brought that to the table. So in the beginning, it was great. It was really great. But, I think for us, it was more personalities were very different, and we probably were not the most compatible. This is the wife and myself, and it was tough. So at the time, it was the right thing, and we never discussed like breaking up. We never discussed anything. And when we sold to Lauder, it was amazing, incredible, changed all of our lives. And they were in charge of both of us. So I think she probably stayed with a year, and that was it. Yeah.
So when you were purchased by Estee Lauder, and prior to that, like what kind of business person are you? Like, how do you like to work, and how do you work with other people?
I am such an entrepreneur that I work in my head all the time. Once you're an entrepreneur, you just figure out how to get things done. And I think that's the way I looked at motherhood. I mean, yes, people think of me as this businesswoman and, successful entrepreneur, but I think of myself as a wife and a mother. My husband and I, we have 3 sons, 3 boys, and the first 2 were 6 and 8 when the baby was born. I was 41 years old when I had the 3rd baby, and I was crazy. I was busy. I'm not going to say I didn't stress. I was constantly stressed. And I was constantly trying to figure it out. I was hacking my life, from how I served them dinner to how I had birthday parties for them, how I bought birthday gifts that they had to go to. I just kind of hacked my life, and I figured it out. I was always stressed, and I was always like, I breathe and I just do one thing at a time. And none of it's easy, by the way. It's so easy to say, oh yeah, I was a working mom and I built $1 billion brand. Yeah. Okay, great, Bobbi. That's a good, but the truth is it was, chaotic sometimes and exhausting. And I remember one particular time when I was still a working makeup artist on top of it, and Susan Sarandon, was listening to me go on while I was doing her makeup. She said, all right, stop right now. Go get a housekeeper. Go get someone that's going to clean your house so you could be with the kids on the weekend and go have fun with them. And I thought, I felt guilty to do that, right? I mean, I worked during the week, so I did hire someone, but I ended up having her take the kids to the park and I stay home and cleaned and cooked. Don't ask me why, but at least, I was able to, balance a little bit better.
I'm following in your footsteps with 3 little boys. I have Sebastian, Tashin, and Julian's 18 months. I'm like building my business. Yeah. I'm basically interviewing you for all the advice. And getting help. It's this hard thing too. I don't know. And I'm curious if, what your mom was like growing up. My mom was like a full-on stay-at-home mom, room mom, cooked, cleaned, and like to not do that for my kids or to ask for help or to bring in someone to help is you kind of feel bad and you want to do it all. And then you're the resentful martyr. And it's just like this whole thing that you have to get a handle on. So how what was your mom like growing up, and what was your relationship with her like? And what did you learn to let go of as you were building your brand and growing your family and being everything for everyone?
Well, my mom was also a stay-at-home mom, and I wouldn't say she was a cook. We had dinner on the table every night. There was a lot of frozen chicken Kievs and canned vegetables. When I was growing up, I didn't really discover healthy, good food until I became an adult. And she also lived in a different state, so I didn't have either of my mother or my in-laws to depend on. So I hired, someone to help me take care of the kids and take care of the house. And it just became, my job to do it all. And what really helped me the most is my husband. I mean, he's got his own giant business. He's, went back to law school at some point, and he was always there, not just physically being there, but always there to say, okay, Bobbi, calm down. It's going to be fine. Bobbi, we're going to get this. Bobbi, we're figuring this out. I mean, he's always been that person to me that kind of allows me to do it. So I didn't fall apart. And I do remember once listening to Tina Brown, who was a very big, journalist, very on top of the world. And she got up and she taught, someone interviewed her and said, so what was it like, growing up and, when your kids were growing up, how did you handle it all? And I was so used to people like, being all fancy. And she just said, oh my God, it was a shit show. She said, I used to like leave in the morning. I couldn't wait to get out of the house just so I could like go be a person. My kids were running around. They were spitting up. They were fighting. They were this. And I couldn't wait to get out of the house just so I could like pull it together. But basically it was a big shit show. And I was like, okay.
I feel seen.
Right. I feel seen. I'm like, okay. And then I vowed to myself to be that person to tell, the younger generation, guys, there is nothing like, there's no perfection. I mean, how many times I've done my makeup in a car as I'm getting out to go do something because I was late because the kids needed something like, and you know what? The good news in this generation, I feel like some, old person, but is like things are less perfect, right? You could go speak on a panel with a messy bun and sneakers and tights. Where back then you needed to come in with your fancy outfit and you're clicking your heels and just pretending that you're, a real working woman.
I think there was a period where women were really trying to prove themselves in the workplace. And so they went all out and they dolled up and they did the whole thing. And now it's like, we're representing a large portion of entrepreneurs and successful entrepreneurs that build businesses above $1 million and then multiply that and get investors now. And it's like, we're going to wear our sneaks to the panel and we're not going to sit here and try and prove ourselves to anybody. Because by the way, we're also going home, packing lunches, driving kids to soccer and flag football. And waking up with them in the middle of the night when they're scared.
And that's the good stuff, especially now that I'm a grandmother now. I look back and I'm like, my God, those were the good times where I was like, oh my God, how am I going to get to soccer and my kids' friends' shoes were all over the house and everything was a mess. And I was so feeling out of control, but that was the good stuff. Right. And my house is clean now, but I would take those kids running around my house, in a nanosecond. And by the way, I also had something else that I was struggling with, which, you probably don't have, which was my weight and how I looked, because I've always struggled with my weight. I'm 5 foot tall. I was the diet queen of, the universe until I became, the health nut of the universe. And, that was something that I had to show up for these events and look pulled together, but things didn't fit me. Right. Like I had trouble losing the body weight each time. And all of a sudden I'm 5 foot tall. I was like, I felt like, SpongeBob. I was like, and I was always on and off a diet. And finally I went to IIN and it changed my life. And I became a health nut and I followed you. And I remember always reaching out to you because I loved your content and you changed my life because I understood what I needed to fuel myself with to keep myself full. Your fiber, your protein, your fat. And it was like, this is so simple. Like your concept, like you really made a big difference in my life because I understood what it meant to actually eat something, taste good, and be full. Instead of like not eating carbs and trying to understand why I can't do keto. I'm ravenous. I can't do this. I can't be vegan. I can't be any of this. I just need to be full. And you are the one that kind of taught me how to be full. So thank you for that.
Oh my gosh, Bobbi, that is like such, that's my high of the day. I'm going to sit down with my boys at dinner today and say that like I impacted your life and that you told me that. I feel so grateful to hear that. Thank you. Like that's honestly like why I started my business. It's why I wrote the books. I'm so passionate from the deepest part of my body and my soul because I, at a young age, struggled. Like I was in high school and reading diet books and my friends were, I remember one of my high school friends doing the fruit cup and gum diet. Like,
oh, I had never heard of that one. Maybe
what are we doing here? I mean, she
Oh.
coined it. It's like she would buy a fruit cup at lunch in high school, and that was it, and it's like chewing Trident gum the rest of the day. And it's no one should have to starve. No one should have to do the cabbage soup cleanse and all these diets. And also it's just blood sugar balance is phenomenal for metabolic health later in life. Like it's how I serve my kids. I'm sure it's how you serve your family too. So this is so exciting because I think you followed your, you followed your passion to IIN, you learned about health and nutrition, and then you started another beauty brand that is focused on clean beauty and aging with grace, Jones Road. I mean, I'm wearing so many of your products right now, and I really feel like myself. Again, it's just an evolution of Bobbi Brown, your original brand, just even better and elevated. What motivated you and excited you to get back out there and start a new brand?
Well, I left after we sold the company to Estee Lauder. I signed a 25-year non-compete because I figured I'm not going to want to work in my 60s. I was,
Yeah.
in my mid 30s. I was wrong, but I signed it. And when I left Estee Lauder and Bobbi Brown after a couple really tough years, I was 59 years old. Had it happened pretty suddenly. I had no idea what I was going to do, what I wanted to do. And I had 4.5 years left on my non-compete. So I couldn't start a new brand. I couldn't go back in beauty. So when I left, I was like, first I was, like this kid looking like a kid, looking at all the new things, all the new brands that were out there, all the health and wellness. Things were so different. I got off this giant treadmill and I went to IIN at that time. And then I experimented with a wellness brand called Evolution 18. We launched at Walmart. It was absolutely interesting and absolutely not where what I should have been doing. But I did it. I learned a lot. I learned, the digital world, how to have a business online. I also learned working with Walmart, which was very different than working with Bergdorf Goodman, you can imagine.
Yeah.
And then I just missed. I'm like, I'm not done. Bobbi Brown seemed so old fashioned to me. It seemed too made up. And the products were not, my heart products anymore. That part of the business changed. And I had to go through a certain amount of, cleansing myself to really understand who I was. And I started just messing around with products and formulas. And I had to find, a different lab to do the clean brand. Now, I'm not someone that goes out and like stands out a soapbox talking about, how important it is to not, eat or put chemicals. That's not my platform. But I got to work with chemists to say, I wonder if I could create a brand that is, I think, the best possible formulas I could use and not have anything on the banned list of chemicals, which there's 2,600 of them. And I did that. And at the same time, I was kind of changing my diet, the way I was eating, to just like real food that grows in the ground, that has, protein, fat, fiber, the same things. And I just kind of became like, oh, this makes sense. And then when I had the formulas, I said, I don't want to be in the over marketed fancy packaging, and I don't want to be in a department store. So I got to really reinvent everything. And here I am 4 years later. And it's been quite an interesting journey.
Oh, it's just exploded. It's been amazing. I see it everywhere. And I think, again, you're just filling a need. Like back when you started Bobbi Brown and people didn't want greasy, floral, bright, you filled a need. And now it's like knowing that endocrine disrupting chemicals are everywhere. We can either live in fear and be fear mongered and be so scared and paralysis by analysis, or we can say like, there are people who are championing this in cleaning products. There are people championing this in bedding. There are people championing this in beauty and makeup. And that is you and Jones Road. And it is, it's an amazing experience for the consumer. It's super easy. Your packaging is good for little kids who reach into makeup drawers as well. So how are you reaching your consumers now? And what do you have envisioning? What do you have, like, what are you manifesting for the brand, and what's the future hold?
Well, it's been very interesting because, I already had, when I launched, I had a platform
Yeah.
We launched in the middle of the pandemic, a week before the last presidential election, and here we are again. But but it was a whole different world and a whole different way of doing it. So it's just we reach the customer by social. We reach the customer by digital ads, and I apologize to anyone that gets me in their feed every 2 seconds talking about something, because when I launched this brand, I didn't think I'd have to be the spokesperson. I'm 67 years old now, and I just can't believe that I spend almost every day like thinking about what I'm looking like and how the lighting is and what my neck looks like. And I don't do any kind of filler or Botox or anything. I've chosen to embrace everything because I like natural better.
Yeah.
Do I have lines in my face? I do, but
Right
I think my
there with
lines,
you.
yeah, and I think my lines look good because I have really good skin, probably from heredity and probably the way I eat. And there's also a lot of amazing things that estheticians and derms do now that aren't filler and Botox. There's laser, there's soft wave, there's all sorts of things. And, I do all those because I do think it helps build collagen. And I do think it tightens and does, I don't think it's just the emperor's new clothes. And I think I look better. I think it does really make a difference.
Ooh.
So I'm positive about that. And truthfully, I focus more in my 60s, not how I look, but on two things. One is how I feel. And the most important thing is how I feel I look. Right? If
Oh,
I like my advice to everyone is when you look in the mirror and you don't look good, either you haven't been taking care of yourself, you don't feel great, or you're looking in terrible light. Go
yeah.
find good light, go for a walk around the block twice, and then go look in good light. It'll change your mood and it'll change how you feel about yourself.
Oh, that's great advice. I love that you're going all natural. I'm seeing this more and more and more. And also as
In
a mom.
California, are you really?
Well, yeah.
In
50
LA? Come on.
50, 50
Okay,
50.
yeah. Yeah.
But as a breastfeeding mom and someone who's had a baby or breastfed back to back for close to 7 years now,
Wow.
Sebastian just turned 7, and I actually was pregnant before Sebastian. So I have been either pregnant or breastfeeding and had, I think, like 4 periods total in seven and a
Wow.
half years. So I need all your advice actually when it comes to lasers. And are you using frownies before you go? I mean, I'm mouth
No.
taping. Am I supposed to be
Yeah.
taping my
No,
whole
I'm not
face?
doing any of that. No,
Okay.
I literally, Jones Road has a cleanser that you put on your face. You basically take a washcloth or splash water, and then I jump into bed. Like I'm
Okay.
done. At nighttime, I'm cooked. I mean, I try really hard to do my, to floss my teeth.
Yeah.
I'm wearing Invisalign now. So, I mean, that's also a nice anti-aging thing. It
Yeah.
straightens your teeth. And as soon as they come off in a couple of weeks, hopefully I'll get them, bleached so they're brighter. So all those things makes a difference. I have 100% gray hair. I
Yeah.
color it
Yeah.
and I do it every 2 weeks. That helps me a lot.
Yeah.
And, you don't need these things yet. Like you'll
Yeah.
know when you really, need them. I mean, they don't hurt,
Right.
but they're expensive.
Yeah.
They're a little painful. They're definitely expensive. And, my favorite one right now, I really should go work for them is Softwave. That
Okay.
has been a big game changer. I've done Althera. It hurt too much. I highly recommend people not to do it.
Okay.
It was, I also do, I did laser hair removal. I didn't do it early enough because it doesn't get the white hairs.
Mhm.
So I tell people to get yourself, do your laser before you start growing white hairs out of your chin. And
Yeah.
if you do grow white hairs out of your chin, just leave a tweezer in your car.
Yeah. Because
Because,
that's when you see it in the rear view
that's when
mirror when the light's there.
right, exactly. You see it and you feel it. And then I did have, issues with hair loss during the pandemic. Oh my
Mhm.
God, my hair was so falling out and thin. It was awful. Went to every doctor, tried to figure out what it was. I tried PRP, I tried everything, and nothing worked. So I went and had extensions put in to make my hair thicker. And about a year and a half ago, a friend told me, it was a guy, and he said, "Look at my hair. I have so much hair." I said, "Your hair looks great." He said, "I've been taking a half dose of minoxidil pill. It's a prescription." He said it changed. He filled in his bald spot. Well, I started taking it a year ago, August. I have not worn hair extensions in like 8 months. I have so much hair. I have eyebrows now. Like, it's crazy. Just from this one pill. It's called minoxidil. It's not the stuff that you buy at the drugstore, because that doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
But this did. And you have to do it in microdose, like only a teeny bit, because I guess it was originally a prescription pill for high blood pressure, but they somehow found that people were growing
Hair everywhere.
And so yeah, especially when you did small doses of it. So I do half a pill every day. I have, there's no other side effects. You get a little fuzzy on your cheeks, but there's something you can do about that too.
Yeah.
And I would shout from the roofs to women that have had issues with losing their hair to try it.
Wow. These are all great tips. I think for a lot of people, it can feel intimidating, especially in California, maybe to stop doing the fillers or the freezing and the Botox, all the things. I like having other options because we want to feel productive, like we're doing something for our health or we're taking care of ourselves. You mentioned that your skin has a lot to do with your diet. Can we talk about day in the life of you?
Sure. Well, I'm not 100% sure what's in my delicious chocolate peanut butter smoothie.
Okay.
I actually gave up almond butter for peanut butter, because remember everyone said how bad peanut butter was for you and how much better almond butter is. Well, guess what? I like peanut butter so much that I just said, no, I'm eating peanuts, and I don't care what doctor or what Instagram tells you should only eat almonds. But so this, I do the best I can. I decided not to be like a neurotic person. If I go to dinner with my kids in Brooklyn to some cool restaurant and there's something amazing to eat, I eat it. I've always kind of had stomach issues. I still do. My gut has always been an issue for me. I never quite figured out what the answer was. But my normal habit is I wake up in the morning, and no matter what, I hydrate myself first. 2 glasses of water. And most days I do athletic green in it, because it helps like alkalize my body for my next drink, which is espresso. I do a double espresso. I also been putting electrolytes in my water. And oh my God, I'm terrible with names. It's the one that it has a lot of salt in it, but it's delicious.
Element?
Is it Element? They also make a chocolate one.
Yeah, it's Element. The little packs
little packs. Yeah. I think that's what it is. So I did that this morning. Then I have a double espresso, and I do Nespresso. I know it's not a clean coffee, but it's easy. And I've tried to, up my coffee game, but I just keep going back to that. And I used to do 2 shots. I now only do 1 shot, and that helps my cortisol during the day a little bit. And I put a capful of half and half in it, organic half and half. And then I go, do what I shouldn't do, is I go back upstairs to bed and read the newspaper on my iPad. This is the joys of not having kids in the house. Okay. There's got to be some benefit. And then I go exercise.
Okay.
And I fill, a nice pitcher of water that I carry with me. Right. And I yours has a straw too. I have the straw, which is important. And then I'm okay. And then when I came to, then I had to eat something on my way out the door. I was on a conference call talking to the UK, gathering my things with the dog. I put an almond oat waffle in that I keep frozen that I buy at the farmer's market. I toasted it. I put peanut butter on it. I ran out of the door. So I got to my office. My assistant ordered me a shake. So, cause I didn't have protein.
Yeah.
And so I'm fueled. And then I will have turkey chili for lunch.
Yum.
And then we're going to an Italian restaurant for dinner with friends. And I assume I'm going to order some kind of either grilled fish or grilled chicken. And if there's whatever pasta my husband orders, I'll take a teeny bit on my plate. And then I'll have black licorice when I come home because I always need something sweet.
Me too.
And then I'll turn off my food, and try not to eat like 2 hours before bed.
That's great.
How's that? How'd I do?
It's awesome.
Oh, wait, I forgot one thing,
Yeah.
which that doesn't usually happen on Mondays. I try not on Mondays, but I also do either a vodka or a tequila on the rocks, probably 4 days a week.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I used to do like in the summer, sometimes I do 7 and that doesn't work very well for me.
Yeah.
And I used to sometimes do 2 of them, but now I'm down to 1 and it's only about 4 days a week.
I mean, honestly, I think it's 80-20 and where I see things go wrong is if clients make promises to themselves that I'm only going to do it 4 days a week and it's only going to be 1, and then they go for 2 and then they get home and they're like, should we toast some sourdough toast from the farmer's market and add some peanut butter and sit and have a third,
Right.
It's when you put yourself in that state of perfection and you break your own rules or you set these very rigid rules, that's when people feel like, well, just throw in the towel because we've already messed up. And I think if you can give yourself some wiggle room and that light structure, that's really where people can shine and not fail themselves because they've set these arbitrary rules. And instead, I love your how I feel and how I feel I look. Because even by checking in with yourself on the days where you've had to wake up and be like, oh, I'm craving carbs. Right. I don't want to work out. I want to be in bed with my newspaper for an extra hour.
Right. Yeah. I often lay in bed at night when I'm all done and say to myself, like, okay, what worked and what didn't work? And if I really, someone said to me, that's like athletes do that after the game. Okay, what could we have done better? And I'm like, all right, at dinner, there are times where I do eat the bread when it's like amazing bread. And I'm like, okay, I know I only had 1. All right, maybe I had 2. Maybe I should have eaten before I came to the restaurant. Like I'm always trying to think in my head, what could I do better? But I also have learned, this is super important, I don't beat myself up anymore when I do make a decision to eat something that I know I'm not going to feel good. Like if I don't know if you do it, but every once in a while I just say, all right, I'm having pizza tonight. And I know I'm not going to feel good in the morning. Yeah. But I do it anyways.
Yeah. Well, I think that is the freedom, like right there, like you take the joy out of even enjoying that when you beat yourself up. Like we were in France this summer and there was so many croissants and baguettes and like my kids, were in front of the Louvre and there's, there's the little like bread guy, the pastry like pop-up shop, it's like we're getting in line, everybody's trying a croissant or a waffle and like we're enjoying it. If I'm enjoying that croissant, like the last thing I want to do is think about in my head, okay, tomorrow we're in France, but tomorrow I'm not going to have a croissant. Don't touch a piece of bread. Like that's really ruining the vacation and the joy that you get from even of having that bite. And I think that's really important too, because then it really takes you away from that perfectionist mentality where you need to be more rigid the next day and be even better. And it's also a lot of time spent up in your head and not in real relationship and in real presence of the place that you are, the restaurant you're at, the friends that you're with, you're in your head thinking about the bread instead of communicating and connecting with the person you're on the date with or the double date with or the girlfriends. Like, how are their kids? How are their grandkids? Like the laughing, all the joy that can come from that. You're just stuck upstairs.
Yeah. No, and it takes a while, right? For you to kind of realize that.
And I think when people get really excited about health and nutrition, you really start to catalog all the things that you've learned, and it can make you feel overwhelmed at first. But there's such a beauty in just staying the course and moving past that.
Right.
What advice do you have for people who are just getting started, cleaning up their diet and cleaning up their beauty and maybe their cleaning supplies and trying to live a more holistic lifestyle? What advice do you have from your journey?
Well, first of all, that it takes time, and
Mhm.
it's nothing's perfect. And just because you did something that maybe wasn't on your okay list doesn't mean that you have to go blow it.
Mhm.
And what I learned at IIN was, the crowding out theory. Don't even, yes, we know we shouldn't eat fried. Okay, let's not eat fried. Of course, unless you're in that amazing restaurant that the fries are worth it. Like, all right, we're
Yeah.
not going to just eat fries. We're not going to eat that awful white bread. Like, that. We're not going to eat processed food. But, start adding more healthy things on top and, eat like instead of, 4 pieces of pizza. All right, Bobby, have a salad and eat 1 piece of pizza. And if you feel like eating a second, eat a second. You
Yeah.
don't need 3 or 4 pieces. But by filling my stomach with salad,
Yeah.
it's going to make me eat less of the thing that's not going to make me feel good. But my problem is, and this is a question for you, since I've always had tummy issues, I can't eat a lot of salad anymore. Like
Yeah.
raw vegetables. Like last night we made, my husband and I, we had lentil soup, we had Brussels sprouts, and we had some asparagus. Um, I'm sorry, that was a little fibrous for me. Like
Yeah.
I didn't feel great at night and I woke up with puffy eyes
Yeah.
because of too much fiber. Is that
Yeah.
a thing?
Yeah. I mean, you can get absolutely like backed up, bloated, and feel like you're puffy. And that's part
Yeah,
of it. I think your crowding out theory is something you should take with you no matter what. And it doesn't always have to be fiber. Like I think looking at the menu and saying, like, are there some marinated olives that have a little bit more fat and some,
mm,
fiber rich carbohydrates? Is there a crudo or a shrimp or some
right.
type of like protein based appetizer or that smoothie that you have right there? Like, can
Yeah.
you have that before heading to a restaurant? I love a roadie, like a little
Mhm.
protein and then
Yeah.
shaken up with some milk just to kind of the protein itself just regulating those hunger hormones and feeling
Yeah.
like, okay, like I'm not starving. I don't have to reach for the bread
Right.
basket, but I don't necessarily need to have 3 vegetable sides to crowd out
Right.
the pizza that
Yeah.
I don't want to eat, you know?
Right. Yeah. We were at home, so we didn't have, the shrimp or the anything. So, it was just nice to make dinner and not have to cook a protein. But I
Yeah.
think I probably could have had some leftover, roasted chicken or something for me. But
Yeah.
next time.
Yeah, easy, easy. I'm
Yeah.
just you're doing what you do, which is like, what could I
Yeah.
have done better? I woke up, I
Yeah.
felt a little puffy, I felt a little bloated. It was like not comfortable, you know? It's
Hmm.
easy. I think I'm the same way. Like if I roast a tray of roasted vegetables and there's caramelization there, I've been known to go a little hog wild and then pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm,
Um,
I visit my 94-year-old aunt in her retirement community. There's no salt on any of the food. Everything is overcooked. I said to my aunt Alice, I'm moving in. Like I could eat, a big thing of the overcooked broccoli and a plain grilled chicken. I'm like, I'm so happy.
Yeah. It's amazing how the more we simplify, the better we feel.
Yeah.
When you look back on your career and your family and your marriage, what are you most proud of?
Well, I'm still madly in love with my husband. And, every day is not the perfect day, as anyone knows, but it's been 36 years. So I feel proud, but I feel really lucky too, because, not everyone's lucky to marry the right person. And I did. And, the life we did together, raising these 3 boys that one by one are all these incredible, like independent, nice men with either 2 of them have wives, one of them has a girlfriend. Their choices are exactly right for them. And we adore all the women in our life. And now I have a 2-year-old granddaughter and a grandson on the way. And I'm like, wow, I really hit the lottery. And I just happen to have my passion, which is my new brand, Jones Road. That's just an add-on to my life. So I
Wow.
am grateful.
You're making me cry. It's like
Aw,
it's just keeps getting better for you. And
yeah.
you've been
Mm,
intentional with your decisions and the way that you've leveled up and grown. And You can see it. It's palpable how much you love your granddaughter. It's really cute to watch on Instagram.
I know. I promise not to post her so much. Her mother, is like, but sometimes I get permission, or I just can't help it. She's like, Lily, who's your best friend? BB. She calls me BB. BB's my best friend. I'm like, Lily, and we were looking at pictures yesterday she's like, Lily baby pictures. So in my photo library. And I said, I love this picture of you. I love this picture. And then one picture came up together. She goes, BB, I love this picture of you. And so I printed it out for her. I said, you could take this home. I don't know if her mother probably threw it in the garbage, but anyway.
So cute.
We are besties.
That's so special. Well, I'm so excited to continue to watch you change the world in all the beautiful ways that you are, and to see your success. It's also really, I think, admirable to watch how grateful you are, and how it seems as if you sit and really acknowledge these big moments in your life, whether it is, having a granddaughter, launching Jones Road, like seeing the success of your boys, like it makes it all worth it. And I think it really drives your success and just what seems like a beautiful life.
Well, thank you. And I'm very honored that I've had, something to do with you turning into such a great person too. So, I feel happy about that. And one day, hopefully we'll have a store in LA. So, I'll get to see you regularly.
Come on out. We'll do it in real life.
Yes. Okay. That'd be great. My pleasure.
Oh, well, Bobbi, where can people follow along? Where can they learn about Jones Road? Where can they see your sweet granddaughter every once in a while?
Let's see. You could either follow the brand at jonesroadbeauty.com on Instagram, or you could follow me at just Bobbi DOTCOM. And we have a website. You could take a quiz to know what miracle balm you want, or you could just scroll my Instagram and find me dancing, doing hip hop, one or the other.
It's so good. Well, I definitely recommend the mascara and the eyebrow gel. They're total staples. And I thought that I had found the best natural mascara, but you took the cake. Got some mad volume over here. So thanks for that. But I'll put all these links in the show notes. And thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. Nice talking to you.